right now.
It's
But
actually thank
okay,
you to Abdello.
restart, you know, so the recording. So briefly, good. Now we restart. Just after I've gained back some energy, something is trying to steal it away again. Zoom is trying to steal again. Okay, so let's restart. A few attempts in trying to record this. So these, you know, according to yesterday's lesson, we know that then these, the arising of obstacles means that, you know, achievement is coming soon. Attainment is on the way. So these are all very good signs that we're having so many obstacles. So it says, you know, when we are practicing Dharma, you know, then as siddhis, as accomplishments are about to arrive, you know, then all these great obstacles will come. So just when we figure out, you know, how to record, how to upload, how to send it over to YouTube, you know, then this morning, everything, you know, started to start blowing in all crazy directions. So anyway, page 9 was where we were yesterday on the life of Kyobpa Jigten Sumgon. So the quotation at the bottom of page 9, it's when when Kyobpa Rinpoche sent his disciples into retreat in the different places, such as Chari, Lapchi, Kailash. He said to them, you know, you go now. You go and you work on what I have already given you. You cut distractions from all sorts of things. Do not return, he said to them, until special experience and realization have arisen. Special experience is, the word is nyam in Tibetan. Nyam just literally means like experience. But in this context, it's not like, you know, day-to-day experiences, but like special signs that arise because of our practice. But this nyam, these special experiences, they are temporary. Although they are temporary, they are the basis for the arising of realizations. So basically he's saying, so practice earnestly, practice very seriously until you have these special experiences. But then when you have these special experiences, know how to turn them, make them into the basis for realization, tokpa, to arise. Then if doubts and unpleasantness arise, supplicate the Guru. So do Guru Puja, for example. Or sometimes, you know, more kind of directly from the heart, you know, supplicate the Guru. Supplicate the Guru principle. Then with endurance, meaning, you know, don't give up so easily. Make all suffering and deficiencies the path. Then here is the part that I want to talk about Tendril. So since all phenomena arise from Tendril, this is the translation for dependent origination of causes and conditions. Since all phenomena arise from Tendril, take care regarding Tendril. Having said that, he sent them off. Most of them attained Siddhi, and some passed away, revealing the rainbow body. So Tendril, or the dependent origination of causes and conditions, or the dependent origination of cause and result. Tendril is dependent origination. This word dependent origination, or pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit, paticca samutpada in Pali, it has its doctrinal, you could say philosophical meaning. The philosophical meaning is referring to, briefly, how everything that we experience is all interdependent. Everything in this universe is interdependent. So this idea is most, I think, well expressed in a way that we can understand. For example, in the teachings of the contemporary teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, because he also emphasizes how the outer phenomena is related to the inner using kind of modern scientific examples. So easier for us to grasp that idea. So his discussion of interdependence, so much of his teachings, he talks about interdependence. That's one meaning of Dendrel. Also included in the meaning of Dendrel is karmic cause and effect and interdependence. So in order for karmic seeds to sprout and to ripen, a whole host of causes and conditions have to come together. So that's another meaning of Dendrel. The third meaning of Dendrel pertains to, especially in the context of Dharma practice, in the context of relating to our Dharma brothers and sisters, relating to our Dharma guides, related to our Dharma practice, it is said that there are so many subtle things that we are not capable of understanding their significance. But if we start to pay attention to them and also to receive instructions from those who are able to see these connections, then if we pay attention to these connections, then we can avoid a lot of problems and we can progress faster on the path. So I was just using the example, for example, this prayer wheel. The prayer wheel actually, it's the equivalent of, like, say, a Buddha statue that have been properly consecrated. When a Buddha statue, a Buddha image is properly consecrated, it's considered to be the nexus that channels all the Buddha's blessings into. So for us, the Buddha statue, we're not worshiping the statue, but we see it as the node, the physical place to focus all the blessings. Just like a magnifying glass, you put it outside, you can focus all the sunlight and produce a lot of heat. In this way, statues, sacred statues are like this, and this prayer wheel is also like this. It is said that this is Chenrezig manifesting as a prayer wheel. So for example, this prayer wheel, when I put it down on the table, according to Dendrel, if I put it down this way, there are certain results that will come. If I put it down this way, there are certain consequences that will come. If I, plop it down on the ground, there's another set of results that will come. So here, the key point is, if I place it down with care, with attention, with reverence, one set of results will unfold. If I put it down mindlessly, another set of results will unfold. And paying attention to this is really important. This should not turn into, like I said, paranoia, because there is a lot of paranoia surrounding especially Tibetan Buddhist practice. There is not as much, I think, terror as going to a Tibetan Buddhist center or going into a traditional Zen center. Also a lot of terror. Zen is enforced in a different way. Tibetan is enforced with like magic, Oh, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, Zen style is more, you will get like, not literally, but you will get metaphorically slapped, if you don't, do exactly. But you see, in both of these situations, it's really a very skillful way to ask us to pay attention, to develop, in other words, mindfulness. So this is related to mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is paying attention. So then, especially with Dharma things, with Dharma practice, with the way we relate to our Dharma brothers and sisters, our Dharma family, immediate Dharma family, extended Dharma family, with our Dharma guides, all of that, we have to pay attention to the Tendril. So then there are numerous stories about the workings of Tendril. Yesterday I shared the story of Milarepa and Marpa's first meeting. In that case, Milarepa doesn't even know that this is who he was looking for, Marpa. But he did certain things, that Marpa later said, that was the Tendril that was established. So that you, without even knowing, you did that. And as a result of that, you will become a perfect recipient of all my teachings. Many other examples of Tendril. One of the things too that Professor Sobish points out is that the Drigung tradition, especially in the early, and Kagyu in general, in the early teachings and writings, and even in the two commentaries, the earliest commentary, Benjangma and Dorshema, two earliest commentaries on Gongchik, what he sees, he says, is this very distinct pattern that the commentaries will quote line and verse, right? Chapter and verse from this text or that text to kind of reinforce the Vajra statement. So that's quite common to the art of writing commentaries. In fact, later commentaries will quote even more things. Here, Professor Sobish says, the earliest commentary tend to keep their quotations to several basic sources. One is Bodhicharyavatara. One is Uttara Tantra or Ratnagotra. This is a source about Buddha nature. So the earliest, the two earliest commentaries will quote from a basic collection of texts to kind of back up the statement being made. And in that sense, it's very similar to other commentaries by other lineages regarding important texts. But Professor Sobish, he says, but what's distinctive is, often in these two early commentaries, they also would make references to stories. Sometimes the commentary will give you the whole story. Sometimes the commentary will just say, it is like the case of so-and-so and so-and-so. That's it. Yeah. But Sobish says, it is quite distinct. These two early commentaries will tell us stories, include basically storytelling. Why? Because, you see, the style is so different from like philosophical treatises, like philosophical essays. This style is about telling stories. And you see, when stories are being told, the nuances and the layers of meaning is much more full and thick. Whereas like essays, philosophical essays, is written to be deliberately tight, right? Very exact, very tight, very precise. Whereas telling stories, we say, leaves a lot of doors open. Yes, of course, you can also leave dangerous doors open and people walk through it and end up somewhere else. But this is meant to be taught by individuals, teachers who have been trained, who have understanding. And so in telling those stories, a different approach, a different way of approaching the teachings comes up. So this is something I just learned, fairly recently. Like commentaries of Gongchik tend to refer to stories and say, you go look into that story, or you go look into that story. This is like in this story. This is like in that story. In a way, I feel it's almost like Chinese divination traditions. Chinese divination traditions will often refer to stories. So you have these divination sticks. We have them at Urban Dharma. 100 sticks sometimes, so 100 cases, sometimes 50 cases. And so these are often poems. And in the poems, they will make references to stories that are common to kind of the Chinese culture. And say, oh, such as the story of, so and so and so and so. And then the person interpreting the divination needs to be very skilled in understanding, in knowing all the ins and outs of a particular story and particular scenario, and then tailoring that story towards the problem that the person is seeking an answer now. So in many ways, the Gongchik commentaries seem, he says, the earliest ones, the two earliest ones, which he did not translate completely. What he translated completely is the 17th century version, commentary, very influential commentary by Drikung Dharmakirti, or Drikung Choki Drakpa, which is the name of the YouTube channel that we have, Drikung Dharmakirti Circle. So anyway, coming back to page 9, it says that, and then page 10, for the second expedition, 900 retreatants, including Geshe Nyo Chenpo and Garwang Dorje, were sent to each of the three places, Tsari, Lapchi, Kailash. The third and largest expedition took place in Jigten Sumgon's 73rd year. A whole team of teachers taught pratimoksha discipline and bestowed empowerments and explanations, chiefly of the mother tantras. They also gave instructions on ritual dances, mandala drawing, singing. So by that point, Jigten Sumgon has a lot of assistants. Different people with different specialty, different talents, he had them teach all these people, all these that he was sending out to retreat. Some were giving explanations on monastic discipline. Some were giving Vajrayana empowerments and instructions. Some were teaching the Vajrayana arts, so to say. Then Jigten Sumgon's nephew, Sherab Jungne, taught Mahamudra. The most kind of essential thing, Jigten Sumgon's main successor, Sherab Jungne. And Sherab Jungne was the one who compiled the Vajra statements of Gongchik. Then Jigten Sumgon himself introduced them to the nature of mind. So when it came to the most specialized part of Mahamudra teachings, which is introducing nature of mind, that Jigten Sumgon did himself. And then here it says, and bestowed special teachings on groups of 10 and 3 disciples. So there were some teachings that couldn't be so easily given to like 100 people, 1,000 people. Can only be given to groups of 10 or even 3. At that time, it is said 55,525 disciples were sent off to Tise. Tise is Kailash. A little sloppy here. Earlier, he used Kailash. Now use Tise. It's a little confusing. So just so you know, Tise is Kailash and other places of solitude. 55,525 disciples, he told them, you'll go into retreat into these remote areas. Jigten Sumgon's most important legacy was to continue the practice lineage of Gampopa, that he had received from Pamodrupa and to train as many practitioners as possible. Part of the legacy was the preservation of the lineage instructions in works like The Single Intention, Gongchik, The Essence of Mahayana Teachings, and Instruction for the Practice of the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra. In his public teachings, Sokcho, this is a collection of teachings called the Public Teachings, and in numerous practice instructions given in private or to groups of specific numbers of disciples. He died in 1217 at the age of 75. So that is briefly an account of Jigten Sumgon's life. Any questions or comments?
I have one.
Yes.
When in that part, having said that he had sent most of them, he had sent them off. Most of them attained Siddhi and some passed away, revealing the rainbow body. Is rainbow body only comes in Yangzap, or they do come in Mahamudra?
No. Any tradition, you know. Yeah. Rainbow body also has many meanings, you know. It doesn't literally mean, you know, a rainbow turns up. It simply is a code word for how the body is transformed. Sometimes the body kind of shrinks down to a very small body. Sometimes even completely the body might disappear. But I don't know if we need to take it so literally. At the same time, leaving a door open that, yes, things like this can happen. But generally what this means here is that there were miraculous signs at their passing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, of course, you know, especially I think like people who practice Dzogchen, you know, like to say, oh, rainbow body, you know, this is just if you practice Dzogchen, you know, not other things. It's, well, main thing is saying that, you know, at their passing, you can observe some very special signs. Storytelling. So there's one story in the Zen tradition. So likewise, in medieval Japan, there was a lot of interest in miraculous stories of the passing of great monks, great practitioners. So it was a time where everybody, you know, was reporting, you know, this master passed away and this magical sign appeared, that master passed away and that miraculous sign appeared, and this and that. And then, so there was one Zen master who in his life, you know, is known to be kind of unusual in his behavior. So one day, you know, he was pretty old. And so one day he came into the lecture hall, you know, where he was giving teachings every day. And so then he asked his disciples, he said to them, he said, hey, all of you must have heard of practitioners passing away, demonstrating special signs. So he said, have you all heard of great practitioners passing away the way that the Buddha recommend, which is to lie down, you know, in the lion's posture on the right side, you know, with the hand put under the head, the way that Buddha Shakyamuni passed away. Actually, he laid down, you know, in a particular way. And the disciples say, yeah, you know, we have heard that. He said, oh, very good, very good. Then he said, and then have you heard of cases of like masters who pass away while sitting in meditation upright, and students say, yes, 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 we have heard of that, you know. Then he said, and then have you heard of those who pass away while standing up? They're like, oh yeah. And no less of his disciples said that, but some said, yeah, we heard, you know, there's some who did this miraculous sign by standing up, you know, when they pass away, and they remain standing, you know. Then he said, oh, good. He said, so let's see. Now, has anyone heard of any great master passing away in this way? As he said that, he got up and he did a headstand, you know, like yoga headstand. Upside down, his legs pointing up, his head. And he said, anyone has heard of any great master passing like this? And everyone is like, no. And then in that moment, he passed away. Then it is said that they came, you know, they were so shocked. And then, of course, they also witnessed like this strange miracle. Then they came up to try to take his body, you know, to go, you know, do the funeral. And it said that it was basically like stuck, almost like glued onto the ground. They couldn't move his body. So they didn't know what to do until his sister, who also left the home life and became a nun, came, you know. So the sister came, and as the sister walked in the room, she said out loud, she said, oh, you rascal. You have a lot of good qualities, but one bad quality all your life is you are such a show-off, he said. And then he walked up and he said, stop showing off, you know, you're dead now. And then he slapped his face and the body went kaplunk. Then she said, okay, now take the body and go do whatever you guys need, you know. This is sort of, you know, a Mahasiddha, you know, demonstrating outrageous behavior, you know, sort of like saying, you know, because like standing upside down on the head, especially I guess in Japan and China, it's rather irreverent. Even though in India, maybe people did yoga, but in India and China, that is considered to be like kind of really rude, you know, like improper, you know, to do this. So he purposely did that, to make the point, like, you know, who cares, you know, what signs or no signs. And but on the other hand, it is true. Genuine, you know, signs can appear like this. So I decided that rather than going through the introduction according to the pages, now I'm going to skip because the next few sections is giving us the brief biography of Sherab Jungne and how he compiled the Gongchik, and then briefly mentioning the two authors of the two earliest commentary, Dorje Sherab and Rinchen Changchup on page 15, and then an rather extensive biography of Rigzin Choki Drakpa or Drikung Dhammakirti from page 16 onwards, very detailed biography, all the way to 22. Then some discussion about the actual text of Gongchik at the beginning and some of the characteristics of that. Then 24, talking about how the Gongchik became very quickly kind of a reference point, a rallying point for all the descendants, the spiritual descendants of Kyobpa Jigten Sumgon, to kind of rally around that and say, you know, this is how we understand the teachings. So all of that, I think, instead of going through that, we will go back there from time to time. Rather now, I want to skip to where I gave you pictures of, starting on page 25. which is this discussion on single essences, teachings, and intentions. Yeah, page 25. But quickly on page 25, on the top, somewhere in the middle, the Drigungpas make, following Pamodrupa, extensive use of a genre that they have termed stories illustrating dependent origination. These stories are mostly taken from Mahayana sutras, Jataka tales, and tantric oral literature. They illustrate the aspect of dependent origination, of Tendril, of a teaching through stories of events in the former lives of the Buddha or his disciples, and of experiences of Indian and sometimes Tibetan siddhas. In the Light of the Sun, which is the commentary we have now, these stories are only briefly mentioned. In the Dorshema, they are referred to in the commentary and also narrated in detail in the collection of stories attached to each chapter. See, the Dorshema even has an appendix for each chapter, giving in detail all the stories that it's mentioned in the commentary. It'll be wonderful sometime in the future somebody can translate all these stories. So this is what I was saying, like the Drigungpa, when they teach the Gongchik, they like to tell stories. Stories that illustrate the complexities of Tendril. Not just complexities as a headache, I don't mean it that way, but the vastness, the implication, the vast implications of a particular Vajra statement can only be communicated, or can more effectively be communicated through examples, stories of the past lives of the Buddha. Speaking of that, I want to refer you to one reading resource. If you go to 84,000.co, and 84,000 is written out as the Arab numerals 84000.co, 84000.co. If you go there, look at I think on the left, if you go there on a computer, I don't know about mobile, on the left side, there is a column that shows you some of the latest translations. There's one translation called the 100 Deeds. 100 Deeds, D-E-E-D-S, actions, activities, the 100 Deeds. This is a collection of 100 stories of the past lives of the Buddha and his disciples. In other words, what we call Jataka tales. 100 Deeds. Very long text, over 600 pages in translation. But that is a good resource to download. You can download for free. Yeah, so Leonard already shared it in the chat room. Go to that link, look for that. I think now, in quarantine, every day read one story. Then in 100 days, you will finish, the 100 stories, the 100 avadanas. Here they're called avadana rather than jataka. But jataka and avadana mainly same thing, the 100 deeds. So that's a good resource, I think. But don't think too much about what it means, these stories. Just read it, and then you'll get a flavor of how, what these stories are like. We have already reached 11 o'clock, so let's not start this section called the single essences, teachings, and intentions, but you can start reading this, because this is very helpful. This is Professor Sobish giving us an overview of some of the key issues and key terms in Gongchik. Yeah? But do remember that this is nonetheless Professor Sobish's understanding. So don't take it as the final word. But his understanding is very clear, very good, for sure. But still, know that this is his. So don't take it like, oh, definitely it is this way. But it's a very helpful, this next few pages that I've shared with you. So read that slowly, and get familiar with some of the terms, some of the names. So the single essences, teachings and intentions. Then the next section, single wheel, vehicle, path, and samadhi. Then fundamental nature, that is a very important one. What is meant by fundamental nature or basic nature. And then finally, the section on the unity of view, practice, and conduct. So there are many things, in the Gongchik that are unusual. That is not like the more typical general way of understanding it that you'll find across the majority of Tibetan traditions. In some ways, it offers to me a very fresh, refreshing perspective on what is already generally accepted by the more common interpretation. So basically, in the Gongchik, what we're going to find is that each Vajra statement will be preceded by something like the general view on this matter. So it will start with something like, people say ... And then the Vajra statement says what it says. The Vajra statement is said to be from Jigten Sumgon, that Dorje Sherab kept notes on, the Vajra statement. What other people say is provided by the commentaries later on, to kind of help put things into context and say, this Vajra statement is addressing this common view. This Vajra statement is addressing this common view. And this Vajra statement is addressing this common view. This common view, I want to say just a few words. The common view that each of the Vajra statement addresses, in my opinion, in my reading of that, it is not so much that the Vajra statement is saying that the common view is wrong. In some places, the common view is wrong. But a lot of it is not so much that the common view is wrong, but the common view is not clear enough. The common view, while generally correct, but still is not precise enough. It's not clear enough. And so the Vajra statement seeks to clarify the common view rather than debate the common view. In later writings, it's more in the style of like refuting or debating. To refute, to debate, to say, oh, that view is wrong in this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Here, the Gongchik statements, first of all, remember the statements themselves aren't said to debate or to provoke others. But in the scholastic realm of Tibetan Buddhism, it is to debate and to provoke and to critique. Here, the common view, remember, at the end of the day, the common view, or rather the Vajra statement, at the end of the day, these Vajra statements were given by Jigten Sumgon to practitioners, not scholars, not philosophers. Insofar that there are scholastic implications, insofar that there are philosophical implications, sure, yes. But primarily, don't forget, the Vajra statements were given by Jigten Sumgon to disciples who he is training to go into retreat. Yeah? Not to go debate with other people. So we should also study the Vajra statements in that spirit. Later on, a few centuries after Gongchik was compiled, it became a subject of debate by scholars and philosophers in Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. Choki Drakpa's commentary reflects some of that, as Sobish points out. But he says, but even that, he did not go full force in that kind of debate. He still tried to keep to the spirit of the early tradition, which is these are instructions for practitioners. Yeah? These are not debate topics, topics for argument. These are topics for us to clarify and to take to heart. Yeah, so please have a good day, and we will meet again tomorrow. And take care of yourself. Make sure you have, time to relax, time away from news. Somebody posted something on Facebook, such a simple few words, but also very powerful, like pith instructions. One of my friends said, she posted, she said, you can turn off your Wi-Fi. So true, you can turn off your Wi-Fi. So remember this pith instruction. You can turn off your Wi-Fi. In fact, it's good. I'm maybe going to do that, if I know I don't need it, so that it's not, bleeping out, because bandwidth is a premium these days. Whatever we can do, to slow that down, it's also good. Everybody, going online for all sorts of reasons. So we can make an offering, we can make an offering, yeah, by willingly saying, okay, I'm turning off my internet for a few hours because I don't need it. But also it will reboot your system, makes everything cleaner, nicer, better, do that. Yeah. Be kind to yourself, be generous to others. You have a good day. Tonight, I am live casting on the Urban Dharma Facebook. This is the Open Sangha program. First half an hour from 7:30 to 8 is guided meditation. So not much going on, but that's the whole point, of not much going on. Then followed by a short break, and then followed by some basic teachings that are really, I think, hopefully helpful from the heart. So I forgot some questions or comments. Give some time to that.
Thank you.
Sure. Questions or comments? Yes?
Yeah, I had a question, Dr. Lai. You mentioned dependent origination sounds like tendril, but I was wondering what the correct spelling was in Tibetan for tendril.
Dependent origination is tendril. Tendrel, tendril.
Tendril. Okay, and then you said like there was a Pali term for it also?
Yeah. Sanskrit is pratitya samutpada and Pali is paticca samutpada. Pali is lazy Sanskrit.
Thank you.
There are more sounds in Sanskrit, all the R extra sounds here and there. And Pali chops off all of that, So it's pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit. Then in Pali is paticca samutpada.
Thank you.
Nirvana becomes Nibbana. Dharma becomes Dhamma. Any questions before we end? So again, tonight, that one is not Zoom. That one is just Facebook live stream. This evening, Open Sangha. Then tomorrow evening is the session on Panashavari. Eastern Standard Time starts at 9 p.m. Not a.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m., which Malaysia time is 9 a.m. Saturday, but 9 p.m. Friday, tomorrow night. That will be on Panashavari. So if you can, if you have the text, do Panashavari praise once a day at least, do some of that mantra and do it with the motivation that it will help quell sooner this outbreak. So,
is that going to be on Facebook or Zoom?
That is on Zoom. Information was sent out yesterday. Information is sent out also today on the chat on how to access that Zoom for Panashavari.
Okay.
Yeah. So please check for that information. Changju Zemjo Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Yu Che Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bill Word Show.
Gracias.
Okay, have a good day.
Hasta mañana, gracias.
Gracias, gracias, Roche. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah.